I'm standing stunned in a carpeted conference hall, big glass windows looking out over Austin. It's day 3 of a business dad conference, essentially, and things were getting completely nuts. The last speaker had just led 120 athleisured entrepreneurs through a mind-bending exercise of chanting and drums. He invited us to move freely, expressively. Lots of things middle-aged guys aren't invited to do very often. At the end of this tribal breakdown, we were supposed to just wipe the war paint off of our faces and talk about leveraging AI in business. Nothing could be further from my mind just then. I took a minute to sip ice water and refocus. I mean, AI is great, but the challenge wasn't just in the transition from dancing around like a maniac with my bros. I also wasn't sure how useful the AI session could be, honestly. I've been building an AI for years now, so I was a little skeptical that this would be new material for me. I stood in the back of the room, not fully committed. The MC introduced Geoff Woods. In essence, he'd done cool stuff. He founded a training company around the famous book, The One Thing. He grew a manufacturing company from $750 million to $12 billion market cap in just a few years. But still, could his new book, The AI-Driven Leader, scoop me on any AI superpowers? I wasn't sure. Geoff jumped on stage, the intro music died down, and pretty soon he asked the audience to raise their hands if they'd used ChatGPT, which was everyone, and then how many wanted to build it into their business, how many actually have it on their product roadmaps, and how many have actually built it into the core operations. So fewer hands stayed up for each of the questions. Of course, I'm proudly keeping my hand up this whole time since I've been building with AI every day, all day at that point. But it was interesting to see that even among this tech-savvy group of entrepreneurs, there still was a lot of room for AI adoption. And it does fit with the conversations I've had with people, lots of the leaders and business people. They know that AI has this potential, and they've dabbled, but they aren't sure how to get the most out of it. That was the point Geoff actually spoke to next. He showed how a slight reframe around the role of AI could lead to really huge business outcomes without all the crazy complexity. So Geoff told a story of a CEO of a manufacturing company that was facing bankruptcy. They were being overwhelmed by equipment leases from Japanese partners, but the Japanese board was totally opposed to restructuring the debt. They knew that it would mean losing face in Japanese society if they did. It was a cultural taboo. Geoff then showed how consequential AI could be in reversing the role that it typically plays. So he didn't just ask it to solve the problem. He flipped the script and he used the creative capabilities of the model to pull problem context out of the leader. I want you to act as an investment banker with deep expertise in restructuring debt. Interview me, asking me one question at a time, up to 3 questions. Then I want you to generate 5 non-obvious strategies I could deploy that would get the board to restructure the debt. All right, the first question streamed across the screen. Do you have relationships with other influential executives in Japanese society that the board would respect? At that point, his client was shocked. He did, of course. He just hadn't thought about the role they might play. The client answered 2 more questions before the AI offered up an idea. It said, create a saving face consortium. You have enough relationships with other influential executives. Approach them to acquire the debt with great terms, so they'd be a fool not to take it. Your debt will get restructured and the board will save face. It was 3 months of sleepless nights that was solved with a 10-minute conversation. Now for me, this wasn't quite as fun as dancing around and chanting, I'll be honest, but it did resonate. I stood at a tall table and I decided to take a few notes. I got thinking about how we often want to use AI as an oracle, as though we can just simply ask it for the answer. But even the most powerful model, it's only as good as the problem context that it has. Geoff did a smart thing. He used the model to surface problem context from his client that would otherwise be a complete mystery to the AI. And for people who use this stuff all the time, it's easy to lose focus on the real leverage points in the business. I mean, sure, you can use ChatGPT to rewrite emails and marketing copy, but using it as a thought partner in crafting powerful strategy is the real game changer. If you point the business in the right direction, everything else falls into place. I broke out my phone to see how this technique might help me. Hanging out with my fellow dads for 3 days had been amazing. We were feeling loose as a goose. How might AI help us to feel this way when we go home after the collective buzz subsides? I asked it. I want you to act as an expert motivator with deep expertise in pulling middle-aged dads out of their shells. Interview me, and it said, 1. When you think about middle-aged dads who are a little too stuck in their routines, what do you think's holding them back? Is it self-consciousness, lack of energy, responsibility overload, or something else entirely? And I said, I think it's easy to be embarrassing as hell when you start singing and dancing. After answering a couple more questions, it came back. Dads need a tribe of like-minded guys who are all striving to be awesome in every major part of their life. Family, business, health, fun. It's not about just loosening up. It's about creating an environment where it feels normal and encouraged to break free from stiffness and just enjoy life fully. Create a small group of dads who meet monthly but with a twist. Every meetup requires a public loosening up challenge. An example dare, karaoke night. Well, hell, I can do that. Let's start right now. I ain't as good as I once was. My, how the years have flown. But there was a time back in my prime when I could really hold my own.